So many people in marketing these days are telling you need to build your online community. So I went and found someone that's built one of the biggest and best online marketing communities in the UK, Joe Glover, to share with us some of his good habits when it comes to achieving just that. So Joe, you obviously run a huge marketing community. So tell us about some of the things that you see that people get wrong.
So the Marketing Meetup community is a place where people come together to connect with one another, get educated on marketing, and most importantly, do it with kindness at its core. I think we've all experienced that feeling where we've been denigrated to a point of money or a lead, or been shunned off because our job title doesn't match the expectations of the person in front of us. So the Marketing Meetup is a group of 21,000 marketers across the world, united around education, connection, and kindness. The first bad habit that I tend to see that most people sort of think wrong about community is that it's a byword for their customer base. So when we have a look at the word community out there in the real world, a lot of companies will start using that word and use it as a way to describe the folks that they just sell at. That feels like a broadcast. It's a one-way conversation. Community is something where people come together to be stronger, to support each other, to learn and get better together. Ultimately, that's what community is about. It's not about a one-way broadcast where a company is saying one thing to their customer base.
It's interesting because a lot of businesses, just like you've said there, they think, let's build this community so we can sell to them. That's the sort of motivation behind setting up that group, or rather than the other way around, it's like, let's help each other. And then by nature of doing that, then the value given, there'll be sales that happen sort of within that community that's not necessarily, you've almost facilitated that to happen.
I think the sales comes around very naturally over the course of time. It actually brings me on to a second bad habit that people expect, which is that they expect the rewards to be financial. They expect the rewards to be financial and quickly as well. So I can speak to my own experience with the Marketing Meetup, where over the course of the first 2.5 years, we actually only broke even, and the expenses were relatively low, but we only broke even on the events that we were running. The reason why that was fine as an exercise, the first was that it was my side thing that I was doing as a hobby. But the second was, it was never really the point. It was never the point to sort of bring together and make money off them. It was there to bring them together in a meaningful way, which made them feel happy that they'd actually been together for this experience. So I feel like as a bad habit, people expect these to pay off on a financial level first.
Interesting you say that, because I often find that I get so many more opportunities now, and people come and ask me if I'm interested in things now. Having sort of built, I would say, like the entrepreneur thing, or my LinkedIn presence has sort of like built a community now. It's like 76,000 on both platforms, weirdly. But even though a lot of them are different people, but it's strange because there was no sort of end game or no end goal. It's kind of like naturally happened, and I've never really sold. Wasn't thinking of like, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to sell X at this point, or when I get to 20,000, I'm going to come with this. It's kind of happened naturally. And I see so many people asking, how do we monetize this too early, especially online with Facebook groups and stuff like that. It's almost like, how do I monetize this? So let's almost fake community or fake authenticity to get to this point, just so then I can take money from this group that I've sort of created.
That's it. Well, it's a shame. It's a real shame, because I think that authenticity point, even though it is a buzzword within the marketing space, it's so true, and people see through it if you're not being authentic, if you're trying to exploit them.
So what would be some of your good habits if I was looking to build an online community effectively?
Well, I think the first thing for me is that I've always had a strong motivation for knowing the reason why I'm building the community that I am. So for me, it started 5 years ago when I was the guy that was terrified on his phone in the corner of networking events. I knew that I needed to network, but I was terrified of doing it, because I knew that every time I walked into those rooms, people would either try to sell at me, or if I didn't have the job title that they expected, they would just ignore me, and it would feel dehumanizing. So that experience sort of taught me quite quickly that I wanted to create a safe space where people could come together in the most genuine of way and sort of connect on a human level. That motivation for me has been something that sort of carried me throughout this entire time. So 5 years later, we're still doing the exact same thing. we're uniting people with kindness. And actually, really, the marketing element of it is just a byproduct. It's a point that we bring people together on, and it's something that's interesting. But actually, it's a human experience first. So I think my first good habit is just all about having a strong motivation behind the activity. So the second habit is all about just chilling out, really. So I really want to encourage people just to take their time. I think that anything that is really built with any significance is built over the course of decades rather than months. So I think if people take that mindset of what can I be doing in 10 years' time that's going to be both satisfying for me, but also give some value back. And in this context, we're speaking about community, but that also applies for companies. I think there's something really important there. I think if you take that time, you aim to build something significant, something that has something in a place in people's heart, even if it's just the 1% improvement on their life, then they're going to value that, and you're going to get something from it back too. So just take your time.
I often say that I try when I do anything business-wise, business decisions, even investing, stuff like that. It's always like, do something today that you'll thank yourself for in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. Like, you'll look back and go, oh, I'm glad you did that. Almost as if like it's two people. So yeah. I think that's the same thing with your marketing, with the content that you create, the products that you or services that you offer to people. Try and create something that you will sort of be thankful for sort of 5-10 years later, because short-termism is probably one of the biggest killers in marketing.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That the word that you use there, killer, it is killer. It's absolutely killer to sort of say that short-term perspective. Whether you're speaking about brand marketing or whether you're just speaking about sort of changing your direction every 5 minutes, nobody stands to benefit from short-termism. So really, I fully agree. Just taking your time, having future Mike thank past Mike for that action. I love that way of thinking. That's awesome.
And your final good habit?
So my final one is all about sorting out your values early on and then consistently reinforcing them. So for the marketing meetup, we speak about listening, saying hello, and being positively lovely. Obviously, it's slightly different in the coronavirus world, but back in the day, that was reinforced at every event that we used to run in person. I think the most important thing about those things is that they're constantly reinforced, so you take the time to do it, but then they also provide meaning and structure behind what you're doing. The Be Positively Lovely line was actually something that was said off the cuff one time, but it was actually something that got repeated to us again and again. So it was the type of thing where we were like, yeah, okay, let's make that crucial to what we do and sort of how we operate. So the marketing meetup now operates on the basis of trying to be the most positively lovely place, whether that's charitable donations, whether it's giving back to the community, whether it's providing a genuine sense of comfort in times where people are suffering or emotionally or whatever. We really look to provide, the most positively lovely space possible. And that's only become achievable through constantly reinforcing those values and also listening to the community when they replay back things which are really important to them from what they get from our group.
So some of the problems that you've said and highlighted here resonate with some of the audience that are in marketing and they don't know about the marketing meetup. Where could we find out more about you and what you guys do?
So you could go to themarketingmeetup.com. Right there, you'll find a series of previous talks that we've ran with the likes of Mark Ritson, Rory Sutherland, Matt Fishkin, Margaret Malloy, like really amazing marketers. They could attend one of our events. They could go to the Marketing Meetup podcast. They could attend one of our events in person, obviously, or they could go to the Marketing Meetup podcast. So there's a range of ways of engaging with the Marketing Meetup community. Cheers,
Joe. I look forward to seeing more of your stuff on LinkedIn because I really like it. So thanks for taking time out and spending it with us.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. It's nice to go from a fan to speaking to you in person.
You've seen behind the curtain now, and you know what a shit show we really run here. Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.